shift our focus from trying to be someone who's trying to make people understand us to trying to make people feel understood, the world opens up.
Dan Solomon, the dynamic president of Mr. Olympia and Muscle and Fitness magazine. With decades of experience in the fitness industry, Dan has transformed the world of bodybuilding and health media. Get ready to be inspired by his insights and passion for fitness.
You guys are making people. You're making influencers, making very influential people out of participating in the Mr. Olympia. Who decided to really start bringing those things together?
Some people, they focus on prize money. Now, of course, the Olympia, we give away more prize money than every other event. However, the prize money isn't even the thing.
A lot of the bodybuilders are wanting to manage their health data. How do you see that playing a role in bodybuilding?
I spent most of my adult life never even thinking about blood work.
It's like you only do it if you're sick, right?
Right. And somewhere along the way, thanks to the work of people like yourself, blood work is the thing now.
Let's just make it happen. We're making people better, right?
Let's do it.
So let's do it. Welcome to another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. This is Sam, your host. Today we got a special guest for those of you guys who are in the world of health and fitness, bodybuilding. This gentleman that's here today, he is, number one, a family man. I see him on social media with his son at the baseball fields, giving him much love. But he's also a visionary entrepreneur leading the company. Well, hold on, not just the companies globally. And today we have Dan Solomon here at the A Healthy Point of View podcast.
Sam, it's great to be here. And what a privilege it is to talk to you. I always say that sometimes when I think about the people that I know in the world of business, there's people that run companies, and then there are people who build movements, right? And I feel like you and I are sort of unified by the fact that we're both in the movement business, right? Like you're trying to crusade a movement for keeping people younger and healthier. And of course, I'm sort of a part of this movement globally, people who are fanatical about fitness and building their bodies. And I guess that's how we stumbled upon each other.
I know, right? And it's we started communicating on Instagram.
Yeah.
And, what you do has a big part of what I do, And obviously today, the room's set up a little bit differently because I got these trophies here that I earned many, many years ago. I'm not looking to earn any more. It's definitely a process to go through the competition. But you're the president of Mr. Olympia, right? Everybody knows this globally. Yep. It's world-renowned. And also the president of Muscle and Fitness.
Right.
How is it? How do you feel being the president of Mr. Olympia?
Well, it's funny. So I've had this position for about 6 years. And what you realize quickly is the responsibility that comes with overseeing something that means so much to so many people. The same way you just referenced these trophies that you earned a number of years back when you were just getting going, and you reflect on those lessons and those experiences. So many people in all walks of life spent a slice of their journey in the world of fitness and training and building their bodies.
Right.
And it's so personal to people. I always say that what makes our world a little bit different is if you go to the Super Bowl and, the biggest game of the year in the NFL, there's very few people in that stadium that knows what it's like to throw a touchdown pass or run an interception back for a touchdown.
Right.
You go to the NBA Finals and very few people know what it's like to dunk a basketball or hit a game-winning three. But when you come to the Olympia, which of course is the rarefied air, it's the mountaintop, it is the Super Bowl, it is the World Series in the world of bodybuilding. When you go to the Olympia, the people who attend live this life. They've experienced this. They wake up every day and they're dedicated to that transformational spirit of fitness and bodybuilding. So that's what makes it very unique and very personal to people. And I love it. I love being a part of that energy. I love the way we've been able to connect with new audiences and sort of tap into that energy that it's funny. There was a time many years ago, and you'll remember it, where every gym had 3 or 4 guys who competed in bodybuilding shows.
Right.
And that was it. But now, because of the advent of all these new divisions, there's actually 11 different divisions from wellness and physique and bikini and all these other divisions. It's gotten to a place where there's a division for almost every body type, right?
Right.
So now the chances are pretty good that your lawyer or your kid's 3rd grade teacher or your neighbor's girlfriend or
even your grandfather
might on some level be a participant in the world of competitive fitness and bodybuilding. So that's been really fun to see it grow.
So let's talk about that. And I went to the Mr. Olympia last year, was in Orlando.
Yep.
And it was massive. I mean, you had people from all walks of life there, every single company, supplement company. And you're right. It's like people that live and breathe this stuff. You know, it's like their Super Bowl, everyone, there's so much positive energy. The music's going, the supplement companies are out there throwing stuff, you know, free stuff to people. But talking about the different divisions, because I remember when I was training early on in my teens, there wasn't all those divisions. And then all of a sudden they came out with like men's physique. And then, you know, so many additional people started actually competing, you know, and I started doing it because I just didn't have those legs like some of these other massive bodybuilders. But a lot of people have this like misconception of what bodybuilding is today, right? Most people think it's like this guy walking around like a house that's just injecting all kinds of shit into them. But ultimately, there are a lot of other divisions for all these other. Why did you guys develop that?
Yeah, so it's not just the misconception of bodybuilding, but it's the misconception of all the things that we do. And I know you live in a space where you deal with misconceptions
A lot.
all the time, right? So there is probably few disciplines that deal with misconceptions the way that we do. When people think of the word Olympia, of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger, 1 hour event, 7 times. So when you think of the Mr. Olympia or you hear the word Olympia, you immediately think thickly muscled, strided, sweeping quads,
Right.
boulders for shoulders, big biceps. You think of that guy walking around the gym with a gallon jug of water in his hand. That's what most people think of. But
Right.
when you come to the Olympia, you realize it is a total and complete celebration of all things that span the physical culture, from combat sports to all different body types to devotions to training disciplines and nutrition and all of these things, and it all comes together for Olympia weekend.
Yeah.
And when people come to Olympia for the first time, they're always blown away and blindsided by the number of different elements that comprise this lifestyle. You mentioned like the Olympia Expo, which of course is the big trade show that goes
Right.
on during the Olympia, which covers about 800,000 square feet of convention center space,
Wow.
hundreds and hundreds of exhibitors, apparel brands, nutrition brands, supplement brands, equipment brands, and the list goes on.
And even the military.
And even
the Marine Corps was there doing some pull-ups and all kinds of
there's
stuff.
always been a
Yeah.
great connection between the military,
I love that.
law enforcement, and of course, what we do in the fitness industry. But it really is, you come to the Olympia, you leave there with enough inspiration to fuel a year's worth of workouts, and you learn so much. You connect with like-minded people. It's tremendous energy, beautiful people, and just lots of education and information. And it is sensory overload. It really is. It is not bodybuilding as people think about it.
Yeah.
Just like what you, and I know I always have to bring it back, but just like what you guys are doing, say at Liquivida and some of these other initiatives that you're a part of, it's for everyone. It's
Yeah.
not just for the person trying to pack on muscle. It's for the person who's trying to live longer, overcome obesity. It's for the people who are just trying to live their most optimized life. And that's what the Olympia is all about. That's what this whole lifestyle is all about. But it wasn't always that way, and we've had to work really hard to get people.
How was it before?
Well, there was a time, look, this year we're going to celebrate the 60th Olympia, if you can
I
imagine.
love that.
Yes.
60th. And it's not in Orlando this year.
No, it's in Las Vegas. It's at an incredible resort called Resorts World, which is on the Las Vegas Strip. It was built about 3.5 years ago for over $4 billion.
Huge.
It's a tremendous property, and it's going to be an incredible experience.
That's right across the street from the Wynn, I believe.
Yeah, it's right near the Wynn, and it's right near the new Fountain Blue and across
Yep.
from the convention center.
Yep. And then also that big, I forgot what it's called. Like it's like a ball
The
that
sphere?
lights up. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
close by to that.
that's
and stuff.
right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. 60th year.
The 60th. So when you ask the question of what it used to be, you go to the Mr. Olympia, you sit in an auditorium, they'd give out a couple $1,000s to some winners. They would crown the #1 bodybuilder in the world. People would sit there and they would applaud, and that was the end of it. Now Olympia weekend is this overreaching, eclectic, very diverse experience that includes, as I mentioned, a big expo, trade show. The stage production feels like you're going to a rock concert now.
awesome.
There's nothing like it used to be. You sit in your seat and you are just blown away by visuals and sound and all kinds of things. So we really have tried to work very hard to make the sport entertaining, because there was a time when bodybuilding shows, to be honest, they can be boring.
They were boring.
You sit there and you watch a couple guys hit some poses on stage, but now we've taken it to a level where it's not boring. You know, we've kind of looked at what guys like Dana White have done with the UFC. Now, granted, mixed martial arts, it's easier to make that kind of fighting entertaining, right?
Of course.
What we have, when you break it down, it takes some work, but we've gotten it to a place where there's real rivalries. There's also a global component. The Olympia, the sport of bodybuilding, when you travel the world, you go down to Brazil, you go to the Middle East, you go to parts of Europe, and you realize just the overall impact that the sport is having. There are countries where the sport of bodybuilding is the second most popular sport in that country.
What are some of those countries?
We had a champion named Hadi Chupan. He was Mr. Olympia for 2 years. There's only been 18 men to ever be Mr. Olympia. Hadi Chupan was our 17th Mr. Olympia. He lives in Iran. He won it. And when he goes back home and he arrives at the airport in Iran, you should see the hero's welcome that he's met with. And imagine that. He comes to the U.S. from Iran. Now imagine the political complexity of that to begin with. But fortunately, he's able to get here. He competes, and he was crowned the #1 bodybuilder in the world on a U.S. stage, competing against athletes from around the world. Brazil is probably the second most popular country in terms of participation.
For fitness and stuff, right?
In this kind of thing. Yeah. So you go down to Brazil and you go to the gyms and you just see what this means to them, and they're training hard, and they're at the cutting edge of all the various innovations and technologies. It used to be where you had to be in the U.S. to tap into the best
and
training.
now it's different. You can come from all over the world.
Many places around the world, they have very advanced training.
And going to the Mr. Olympia, being at the expo, one thing that I'll tell you is that, when you're talking about all walks of life and how it is, and people that have that certain mindset for living a healthier, better life, the energy that's in there, it's vibrating at this like top frequency, man. It's like everyone's just smiles on their faces. They're excited. And it's just, how they always say, you got to put yourself in certain circles, right? That are going to elevate you. If you're into health and wellness, that is the circle to be in.
It's an obsession. There are few things that anyone will do on the planet that is built on the idea of just being your best self. Now, a lot of people in business will talk about that and they'll use those words, but you can't cheat the process in the fitness and bodybuilding world.
Absolutely not.
You wake up every single morning devoted to this almost borderline sacrificial suffrage, where you're going through a process that most people can't even relate to. When your friends are going out to the bar or a party on a Saturday night, you're staying home getting your rest. When other people are, goofing off or doing whatever they do, you're at the gym, you're training, you're focused on diet, you're making sure you have all the best nutrition and resources available to you. So it's very, very devoted. So yeah, to your point, when you go to an Olympia and you're surrounded by tens of thousands of people who all subscribe to this way of thinking, it is a powerful thing to be near.
It really is. It really is. Now, one of the things you're talking about is about how people, this is something that you can't cheat yourself with when it comes to health and wellness and bodybuilding and fitness. There's been a huge shift. And the reason I want to bring this up is that we have over 4,000 doctors that purchase our Liquivida products that tap into this podcast. And they're always thinking about what they can do in their business and how they can actually tap into the fitness world more and more. And one thing that I've noticed on Liquivida is that we're getting a lot more of these bodybuilders coming in, not just kind of guessing what they're doing, but they're really wanting to take a deeper dive. So they're doing everything safely. Yeah. Right. So what have you seen in the bodybuilding world when it comes to actually, a lot of these athletes managing their health?
Well, the good news is we're seeing a lot of progress. We're seeing a lot of progress from the standpoint that the education is out there. The average person who participates in this lifestyle, they have a level of understanding that they didn't have before. Even the way companies who manufacture supplements and nutritional products, the way they market their products, you are now marketing to a much more sophisticated customer. So that speaks to how far we've come. The downside is there are people who are reckless. There are people who hire coaches and hire trainers and hire so-called experts to monitor what they're doing, and they do it recklessly, and they do it without the proper credentials, without the proper experience. And you see people getting sick from this. You see people dying from this, and they take it to such an extreme. They push their body to a place that's just
where it's like not normal,
where it's not normal, or they've also started off at a place where they're just not healthy enough to do it. It's very much, there's a lot of things that we do in the world. Like, don't jump out of an airplane if your heart is not strong, right?
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
Don't ride the roller coaster if you don't hit certain health criteria, and unfortunately, some people enter into this without really doing the checks and making sure they're healthy enough, because there are elements of elite level training, as you know, that put people's bodies into a place where if they're not healthy enough, they're going to pay a
Of
price,
course.
and sometimes it's their life.
Listen, it's no different than, playing high school ball or college ball. You got to get a medically cleared. You got to get a physical before you do it. So, one thing that I'm seeing is a lot of these athletes now are actually physically coming in. They're getting a lot of these tests like the VO2 max, EKGs, baseline blood work to see really where all their hormones are at. And that's the way to do it safely. Now, one thing you and I were talking about this other day about how like a lot of things were not accepted back then. A lot of the things that people do now that we just classified it as basically like a different name. Yeah. But back then it was always about steroids. So let's talk about that.
It's a great topic. I got to be honest with you, Sam. I love the topic because I'm a person who appreciates marketing. I do.
Right.
I think at our core, we're all marketers in some capacity, and I appreciate marketing. And there's no corner of the marketing landscape that's more fascinating to me than the anti-aging industry. Because in the anti-aging world, remember, like you just mentioned, think about it. You almost never hear the word steroid anymore.
Right.
You don't hear the word steroid anymore.
No.
When a lot of us were growing up in the 80s and 90s, you'd hear the word steroid all the time, and it had a real, obviously, for obvious reasons, it had a real dark cloud around the word,
right?
Because it could be very dangerous and so forth. But then over the years, the anti-aging industry came in, and people started to use references to HRT, TRT, anti-aging protocol, created a language that you could speak where you could walk out to your neighbor when you're taking out the garbage and say to the guy next door, "Hey, Joe, are you on any anti-aging protocol? Are you on any hormone therapy? Are you working with an anti-aging clinic?" And now all of a sudden, it's this conversation we can all have because who doesn't want to talk about anti-aging? I mean, the word in and of itself is the most beautiful expression there is. Anti-fucking aging. Yeah. It doesn't get any better than that. So,
and they love talking about it.
And they love talking about that because of the results they're getting, and they're doing it in a safe and healthy way. But I love how we've gotten to a place where those same people who used to frown on others because, oh yeah, he's using roids.
Right.
I mean, in reality, at the end of the day, obviously we're using safer, medically prescribed things now, so it's a different conversation. But at its core, we are still manipulating our testosterone levels. We are still doing things to optimize our bodies in ways that were happening back in the day that we would frown upon it. So it all gets back to the conversation and how you frame it.
Yeah. And listen, when I started in the world of bodybuilding, I was taking like underground stuff, and I spoke about it on a different podcast that I had with Carlton from Forever Young. And we both, before we got into the age management, anti-aging business, we were doing that stuff. And eventually it was, I started working with another age management clinic as a patient where I said, man, there is science behind this. You don't have to just, do whatever you're finding online or whoever the guy in the gym that pulled the shit out of the trunk of his car. You don't have to do that. There's an actual way to do this clinically safe, right? With protocols, quality product that's coming from a pharmacy, where now it's not classified as like the whole steroid junkie
Look,
thing.
Sam, it's not a whole lot different, and I hate to draw the comparison, but it's when the states that legalized marijuana, right? So instead of going down a dark alley, buying a Ziploc bag filled of God knows what from some shady operation.
Right.
Now you can go into a place,
that looks
a dispensary.
Like an Apple store, right?
Right, yeah, exactly. It looks like an Apple store. And you can go into a place like that and you can buy something that has been grown properly and is safe. And if you're into that, at least there's an outlet for you to get it safely.
I agree, man. So one of the things you were just saying earlier, you're talking about marketing, right? And I see what you do, man. You're a marketing guru. And you have experts under you that do that. You're also the president of the Muscle and Fitness magazine, which is known globally, right? How do you manage both?
It's a lot, but I do have a great team. But it's funny, from what I learned a while ago is a lot of times we make the mistake when we're leading people or we're trying to connect with audiences. We make the mistake. We always want to scream from the mountaintops and hope that people understand us, right? We always want to feel like the world understands us. And then I realized a while ago that if we shift our focus from trying to be someone who's trying to make people understand us and shift the focus to trying to make people feel understood, the world opens up. And it's such a simple idea when you really think about it. Go from trying to be the one who everybody understands to being the person who makes everybody else feel understood. And when people feel understood, suddenly you have advocacy. Suddenly they're disarmed. And suddenly they open themselves up to a conversation that can be very productive for everyone.
Right.
And it's not just salesmanship, it's how to connect with people. And, as a leader, we try to, some people lead by wanting to, be a control leader, and then some people lead through inspiration. I followed you a little bit, Sam. I know you're very much an inspirational leader. You're not the one who walks up and down the hall telling people what to do and telling somebody to get your coffee. At least I don't think you are. Maybe people around here might disagree, but that's been my observation.
Definitely not, man. I love motivating, leading,
Right.
and
Inspire people to connect with a good energy and a good message. And when you do that, it creates an environment where people want you to succeed and they support your vision because they feel like theirs is being supported too.
Right.
There's a lot. Muscle and Fitness, of course, is the preeminent flagship media outlet in the fitness world. Muscle and Fitness was created by the iconic pioneer of bodybuilding, Joe Weider, way back in the day. And of course, we don't print the magazine like we used to, just a couple times a year, but now it's mostly digital and social media.
Yeah.
But Muscle and Fitness is very much an outlet for all things fitness and healthy living and nutrition.
So let's talk about that.
Sure.
The difference between publications, how old school you would see a lot of print, right?
Yep.
And you decided to go more the digital route. Why make that decision?
Yeah, I'd love to say we made the decision, but I think the world made the decision for us, right?
Yeah.
With how they consume information and receive content. Look, I'll always say nothing will ever replace the feeling that someone gets of seeing themselves on a magazine cover.
That's true.
Or I remember years ago, I'd go to Barnes & Noble. We'd all have our favorite magazine. And you'd go to the magazine section at the bookstore and you'd get the magazine and you'd sit there with your coffee and you'd touch the pages and you'd flip through them and it meant something. It was different. Now it's all...
Those days are gone.
Those days are gone.
I missed it. I remember going to the grocery store with my parents, right? And I'd go to the magazine section. While they're doing all the shopping, they'll be there for like an hour, right? We're a family of 4 kids. So we'd be there for like an hour and I'd go to the magazine section and I'd just sit there and read magazines, some grocery stores, you can't even find magazines anymore.
You can't.
It's crazy.
And it's really a sad reality, but you have to, like everything else, you have to board the jet because that's where this world is going.
Right.
So, there was a time when even in advertising sales, because I've done that, we would sell pages in the magazine and then as an add-on, you'd throw in some digital or some website or some social media.
Right.
The entire formula has flipped now. Now you sell digital and social media, and if you happen to also print a magazine, you throw in a page. They don't even care about it. The only reason they want to be in the magazine is for vanity, because everybody wants to see themselves written about in a magazine. Words written on printed paper will always mean more than words written on a computer screen or on a mobile device. It just will always be that way. I agree with
that. Yeah. So a lot of doctors I had a conference just this past weekend, and I was talking to a couple of doctors about having this podcast. And one of the doctors asked, like, "Oh man, the Muscle and Fitness magazine. I wonder how I could actually like get an article written in there or online." So because a lot of these doctors that are part of our inner circle, they want to actually reach out to these health enthusiasts, the bodybuilders and stuff. How would they be able to do something like that?
Well, that's Muscle and Fitness's core function, is to identify great thought leaders, innovators, smart people, right? People who are credentialed to really deliver value and to provide a platform for their words to be shared. And I would say to anyone out there, always feel free to reach out to me, DM me on Instagram, whatever it is, and get a hold of me and I'll connect you with one of our editors.
And you're actually very active on Instagram. Like when people DM you, it's you.
I try to be. I try to be. I was a late arrival to the social media scene. I was one of those guys who I am, if you want to say it, a bit of a, and I hate to use this word, but I don't know another one. I'm a bit of a snob when it comes to usage of time.
Right.
I just really protect time almost to a level that probably has cost me a few good relationships along the way. I'm very protective of time. And I thought, man, what worse way to use time than to have something in your pocket that you're sitting there scrolling every day. And I really tried to hold out.
Yeah.
And as I was watching all my friends flip through stuff and waste their time and tagging and liking and posting and doing all those things that everybody does now, I really held out. And eventually I just had to succumb to the reality that people want to connect.
Yeah.
And the world is now connected, and I have to join the party, and I finally did. And
yeah, but being in business, right, especially president of a company, it's like you have to, right? It's like everyone else is on there. People are marketing on there. They're posting their ads. I was kind of the same way. I kept on telling myself, I was like, man, I don't want to get hit with that algorithm, and then I'm stuck.
Right.
You know, I'm scrolling and out. Because I used to watch YouTube videos, and I'd catch myself late at night. It's like, dude, I got to go to sleep. It's like 2-3 hours later.
And
I'm
isn't
still
it
watching
wild
YouTube
how
videos.
the time will go by? There's been times where I've pulled up to a place where I'm driving to. I'm in my car. I'll open my phone and I'll respond and DM and do all the stuff that we do on our phones. And I'll blink and an hour and a half has gone by.
Right.
And you're still sitting there with the gas running in your car. And it's such an absurd idea, but that's what these things do. They really suck a lot of time out of our days, time that I don't feel like I always have. But I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the fact that the things that I do, the Olympia, muscle and fitness, the world of bodybuilding and all the things that we're a part of, it does mean a lot to people. It's not a casual endeavor for people. People are really connected to it. A lot of people are at places in their life where they rely on that energy. They rely on that discipline, that connection to overcome certain things. There are kids who reach out who are being bullied and they utilize fitness and bodybuilding. To overcome that. I always say that a lot of people will look at a picture of a bodybuilder and they'll say, like right now, our reigning Mr. Olympia happens to be a Floridian from Tampa. His name's Derek Lunsford.
Okay.
Great bodybuilder. He just won the title, became our 18th winner of the Mr. Olympia, and he's doing a great job. And a lot of people will look at a picture of a guy like Derek and they'll say, I don't want to look like that. And that might be true. A lot of people don't want to look like Mr. Olympia. We get it. Certainly some people do, many people don't. But what's undeniable is the level of inspiration that guys like that can deliver to the world.
Right.
And that's the biggest part about it. Even like the professional bikini competitors that we have. Some of these women have bodies that are jaw-dropping, eye-popping, extraordinary. They are the top 0.001% of the planet. And a lot of women will look at something like that and they'll say, good Lord, I can't even relate to that. That's impossible. But what you can do is if you sit down with one of them, if you go to one of their seminars, if you look at their content, you can learn a hell of a lot from them. You can learn a lot of the psychological approach to it, the discipline, the organizational component, the nutritional component. You can learn a lot from these individuals. I'm not going to be Bill Gates, but I can read his book and I can learn about, or Mark Cuban. I'm not going to have his net worth, but we can learn from these folks.
Of course.
I guess the difference is I wouldn't mind being Mark Cuban, but that's another conversation.
So when we talk about the Mr. Olympia, man, you're not just getting people on stage, winning a competition, and giving them a trophy or a check, right? One of the things that I noticed is you guys are making people, you're making influencers, making very influential people out of participating in the Mr. Olympia, right? They're getting sponsorships.
Yep.
They're working with very, very reputable big supplement companies. Like that's a whole process. Like I want to talk about the business side of that. Like who decided to really start bringing those things together?
Yeah, so you make a great point. So some people, they focus on prize money. Now, of course, the Olympia, we give away more prize money than every other event by a lot, right?
Right.
However, the prize money isn't even the thing, really. A great example, we have a division called Classic Physique. Its champion is a guy that a lot of your listeners may have heard of. His name's Chris Bumstead. They call him C-Bum.
Yep.
Very popular guy, 20, 30 million followers around the world, incredibly successful, makes a ton of money, and he handles himself the right way, and I have great respect for him. The prize money that he wins is inconsequential to his overall mission and the overall things. Him being the Olympia champion, the Classic Physique Olympia champion, has cleared the way for a world of opportunity for him that it's almost hard to put into words, really.
Right.
It's almost hard to reconcile. But yeah, so to your point, the title can open up a lot of doors. And one of the things that's cool about the world of bodybuilding, there's so many success stories. My phone is filled with the names and numbers of people who started off just like you with your little trophy here, competing and going through a contest prep and learning about those skills of discipline and sacrifice and all those things that you have to do to be in that place. They learn those lessons. And then they take those fundamental lessons to the next thing in their life. Maybe it's a job. Maybe you got a job. I don't know what your story is, but maybe you got a job doing something. Yeah. And then you did the next thing. But you can almost always connect the dots back to that initial experience that you had being a competitive physique competitor or bodybuilder or whatever it was. My point is there are dozens and dozens of people in my phone that started off just like that. And they're now not rich. They're worth hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
They have had exits from companies. They have built brands. They have done things that are far beyond anyone's imagination. And they will all tell you, every single one of them, whether it's a guy like Ryan DeLuca, who bought a domain name for $25,000 called bodybuilding.com and sold his website and his business for a couple $100 million, or whoever it is, the list goes on and on. I could do this for days. But if you talk to all of them, they all connect their success back to their original love and connection for the fitness and bodybuilding lifestyle. So yeah, you make a great point. It really plants a seed. I always say to people, when you're competing as a bodybuilder, don't worry about what they say about you on the internet. Don't worry about if your girlfriend tells you you're crazy for doing it. Don't worry about if 7 judges that you'll never know decide that you should finish 8th and you think you should have finished 2nd.
Right.
Don't worry about what the audience, don't worry about any of it. Just know that by doing this craft, by doing a bodybuilding competition or taking that on and exposing yourself to that level of vulnerability and that level of raw, and I hate to say it, but suffering, because it's a lot of work.
It is.
And you're willing to walk on a stage in a room full of hundreds of strangers in front of a judging panel that's going to tell you what you're worth, right? No matter what you do next in your life, it will be infinitely easier and you will be better for it because of having that experience.
I agree with you 100%. Going through it myself, and I could say that going through that process has fed to where I'm at today. Yeah. And the discipline that you put your body through, because you massively change your physique going through that process. It's not easy. There's a huge mindset component that goes behind it. But I know when I did it, and I started doing it in my early 20s, I told myself, if I can change my physique this way and I am in control of it, I know I have the discipline that I can do anything.
Yeah.
I just have it. I can switch my mindset quickly because I have that power. And I can see it, man. And that's something that's powerful. But it's people understanding that, how you said, it's not the trophy, it's not the check. It's that journey that you're going through, that discipline that you can take, and then you can apply it elsewhere. And when you apply it elsewhere, you'll see the fruits come, you know?
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
It's fun. It's fun being a part of something. And I know you can relate to this because I know you go out and you speak at seminars and you speak to large groups and connect with people who want to hear your message. It really is the best part of what I think we do is going out there and realizing how many people connect with it.
Right.
How many people have been through it or are going through it or have that level of aspiration. The fitness industry is unique. A lot of people want to talk to me about how do you get to the top of the fitness industry and that sort of thing. And I mean, I guess that's a simple kind. I always say just show up. Just show up to everything. Just be a part of it. Show up, build relationships, because at the end of the day, everything we do is based on relationship building. But to me, it's so much bigger than that. There's nothing more gratifying than speaking to a group of whether it's gym owners or businessmen and women or people who are trying to achieve whatever it is, and seeing the look in their eyes as they've, sat there and they're looking to just consume any sliver of information that could provide them with some advantage, and they have this insatiable appetite to grow and evolve. And the best part about the Olympia, bodybuilding, fitness, it's that transformational power of people wanting to get better.
Yeah.
And that never gets boring.
I agree with that, man. It never gets boring. And it's always, every year, more and more and more, right? Yeah. So, in the bodybuilding world, one of the things that I saw at the Mr. Olympia, the expo, I saw many additional clinics, anti-aging clinics and stuff. And a lot of the bodybuilders are wanting to manage their data, their health data. How do you see that playing a role in bodybuilding? People getting their blood work done, people utilizing the Oura Ring or the Whoop. Like I see a lot of them wearing, to make sure they got good rest, the sleep data. So, I think it's important to understand also is you got a lot of personal trainers out there. But one thing that I saw for many years, not that long ago, that the personalized part on the personal trainer was kind of disappearing, where things were kind of cookie cutter. But now you're seeing this integration between what we do at Liquivida, the functional medicine side, and a lot of the bodybuilders, where now you're bringing that personalization again with all this data, even the apps calculating your macros and all of that stuff. Let's talk about that.
So the greatest thing that's happened over the last few years, and nobody really thinks about this or talks about it, but we spent years, I turned 50, right? So I spent most of my adult life never even thinking about blood work.
Yeah.
Never even came to my mind. I just got up, I had my vitamins, and I try to work out.
It was like you only do it if you're sick, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, thanks to the work of people like yourself and other leaders in the field, blood work is the thing now. And as it should be. Could you just imagine the level of lack of self-awareness and ignorance we had with what was going on in our bodies?
Right.
So I think the greatest breakthrough of the last couple years is the fact that millions and millions and millions of people are getting their blood work done. And it's such an unbelievable growth in how we view, how we take care of ourselves, how we improve ourselves, is understanding what's happening inside our bodies. And I'm not so sure if the bodybuilding world deserves credit for that. I don't know that it does. I think what you guys are doing in anti-aging is obviously the catalyst for that. But the greatest thing about it is people start it by doing an anti-aging protocol and they get their blood work, but then they realize once they do that, that they take the blood work concept into their life regardless if they're taking peptides or whatever they're using to stay healthy. So I'm just so excited to see what's happening with just a simple idea of blood work, because it's really such a simple, basic thing like water.
Right.
And for so long, people weren't doing it, and now they are.
Now you know, one guy that I see that he was actually at the Mr. Olympia last year is Dr. Bob Goldman.
Sure.
Which I know you know him very well.
Good friend.
And you know, he's the co-founder of the A4M, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, which I learned a lot from him, the books he wrote. You know, Dr. Klatz, his co-founder, learned a lot as well too. And what we're talking about, these guys recognize how important that is, and they're actually at your show.
Yeah, it's fun. So this year, Dr. Goldman and his group, I've been very fortunate to have been invited to a number of their events. He had me speak at one of his events a couple of years ago, and it was just such a humbling thing because you're in a room of people. This is the next level now.
Yeah.
This isn't people who go out and, just pitch products. These are the guys who hold the patents.
Right.
These are the guys who...
Real science.
Real scientists. So you're in a room, and when I walk into that room, I'm the dumbest guy in the room. There's not even a close second, right? I don't even know how they let me in that room.
I know the feeling, man. It's like, why am I up here talking? But they want to listen to business guys like us too, you know?
No, it's fun. But no, I say that, but the truth is, Dr. Goldman was there on the forefront of so many of these innovations, and he's continued to stay close to it. He's a very good friend of the fitness industry, of the bodybuilding world. He's been a tremendous supporter of Arnold. He's been a tremendous supporter of events all around the world. But more than that, he's very generous with his relationships and with his wisdom. And he's also a pillar in the martial arts world as well, which makes him very unique. I will give Dr. Goldman, since you mentioned him, I will give him a shout out. He's also the chairman and founder of the International Sports Hall of Fame, for which I am on the board of. And it's a cool Hall of Fame because it recognizes and inducts champions and elite athletes in all sports. Everyone from, Johnny Bench to Mr. Olympia to elite NFL quarterbacks and NBA players and the best of the best, Triple H, all these guys. And it's such a cool Hall of Fame. And this year, the induction ceremony is now a part of our program for Olympia weekend. So if you happen to come out to Vegas and you're at the Olympia, you can attend the International Sports Hall of Fame induction. And this year's, I think Misha Tate from the UFC is going to be inducted. And Phil Heath, a 7-time Mr. Olympia, will also be inducted. Jim Plunkett. It's a great class. But so Dr. Goldman is very plugged into a lot of things, and I have great respect for him. But it does seem more often than not that people who are tied to that anti-aging space seem to have their claws into a number of things.
Yeah. And I tell you what, Dr. Goldman, man, just we're on that topic. His love for martial arts, I didn't know what it was until I went to his VIP party after the A4M. And I'm up there. And all his martial art buddies from around the world, they come and support him.
Yep.
So I'm up there, and you got all the guys that are like in the ninja movies and all the stunt devil. I'm like, man, he's really like into this stuff.
That's his world, yeah. And he's devoted to it, and he has a lot of fun to it. And he deserves a lot of credit for keeping a lot of people's legacies alive. And I think he's a very fascinating individual. And I think, isn't that the best part of what we do? There's something about the industries, whether it's anti-aging, the elite level fitness industry, that seems to attract some of the most interesting people from all walks of life. Because let's face it, successful people are in touch with their physicality. They're in touch with building their bodies. You look now and you see Mark Zuckerberg trains every day, and he posts pictures of himself without a shirt. Shaquille O'Neal, a retired NBA Hall of Famer, everybody knows Shaq. Shaq comes to the Olympia almost every year, sits in the front row, and has become a great friend. And he is somebody who will go on his Instagram and he'll post videos of himself doing bodybuilding routines. So it's
people love it, man.
They've loved it, and other guys. There was a time where there wasn't even muscle when you think about it in Hollywood back in the 1940s and 50s when Joe Weider founded and pioneered all of this stuff. Leading men in Hollywood were frowned upon if they had muscle. Nobody wanted to see it. And then little by little, guys like, Arnold and Dwayne and Dave Bautista, and these guys started to come in and make it very acceptable.
Yeah, and I love that, man, because it's really helping spread the word, right? Awareness and all that stuff is extremely important. I see the Mark Zuckerberg stuff all the time. I follow him and his wife on Instagram, and he's even doing like the martial arts and getting beat up, having to get surgery. I'm like, man, you got all this money. You're just like beating yourself. I guess you got the resources to fix yourself.
They want
to
live longer.
Exactly. The dates for Mr. Olympia, I'll be there because I'm actually speaking at a conference in Vegas that actually worked out. Perfect. I'm at the Energize conference with our one of our platforms that we use. So October 10th through the 13th, right? If people want to get tickets, how do they do it?
October 10th to the 13th is Olympia weekend. Of course, the main event that everybody focuses on is Saturday, October 12th. It's at Resorts World, MrOlympia.com. Now, the Saturday night tickets are sold out. There is something that we're doing really cool this year. We're having a watch party. Resorts World is home to Zouk nightclub. Zouk is the number one nightclub in all of Vegas.
Nice.
So they're doing a lot of fun things to provide opportunities for people who don't have tickets. But I would say to anybody, if you can't get tickets to the show, that's fine. Come out, go to the Olympia Expo across the street at the Las Vegas Convention Center. Go to MrOlympia.com. You can get your passes. You can get all the information.
October 12th, right?
October 11th and 12th, Friday and Saturday.
Awesome.
Is the Expo, and it's a great gathering of just all things fitness, nutrition, strength, combat sports, all of it under one roof. And
so I'll be there. Weekend. I'm going to bring a couple of my doctors and stuff too because they asked about it. So it's going to be a fun weekend, man. I love it. Is there anything else you want to give out a shout out to or anything?
I'll give a shout out to you, Sam. I'll tell you, I love what you're doing. I've been listening to this show. The conversations you're having with people are really next level, and it's really taking people down a path that is compelling, and it forces people to think. And I love the fact that you're not just out to promote. You're actually out there to connect and engage and inform and inspire and teach and have great conversations. So I love what you're doing. I'm excited to hear that you're going to come to Olympia Weekend. I hope to welcome some of your audience to Olympia Weekend in Las Vegas.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun being here. I appreciate the invitation.
Brother, I appreciate it, man, and thank you for coming on the show. And I want to keep on growing together, and however I can, feed some of my resources into yours and vice versa, let's just make it happen. We're making people better, right?
Let's do it.
So let's do it. Awesome, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you for watching another episode of A Healthy Point of View podcast. Again, this is your host, Sam Tejada. Make sure you go ahead and like, subscribe, share, do all of the good stuff. And Dan, again, where can they find you?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram, DanSolomon_official. That's usually the easiest way. That's really the only social media platform that I pay attention to these days. So that's a good place to start.
Awesome. So thanks again for watching A Healthy Point of View podcast. Sam Tejada, your host. Make sure you like, tap, scroll, do all the good stuff, share, and we'll see you for the next one.